Hello investigators, and welcome to the overview video for Dark Side of the Moon, which is product number AHC41 in the Arkham Horror the card game line, and not the seminal Pink Floyd album sadly. It is the third Mythos Pack in the Dream Eater cycle and contains scenario 3A of the Dream Quest campaign. It follows on from the search for Kadath and concerns those investigators going into the Dreamlands. Whilst FFG are still offering free US shipping, they seem to have dropped the idea of art cards for pre-order purchasers. For any UK players, this is the second month in a row where our Mythos Pack has been delayed. Is it the usual holiday interruptions, or will this become a permanent setback? To anyone who can't wait, the QR code is working, and also the spoilers are up on CardGameDB. This item, and in fact the whole of Campaign A, was inspired by the H.P. Lovecraft story, The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, but you don't need to know that. It was written in 1927, but never found a publisher in his lifetime, only being picked up by Arkham House in 1943. It comes in the standard blister pack, which contains 60 fixed cards. Under the flap is another double sheet, as this seems to have become the norm now. And let's spin the wheel of fish to see what exciting new mechanic they have introduced this time. It's the alarm level, where the more alarmed you are, the worse things get for you. But shouldn't that be the other way round? Whilst we are all for new and exciting mechanics, your alarm level is represented by placing Doom tokens on your investigator card. Because it's not like Doom has any other meaning, which could get confusing now, is it? But welcome to the limitations of the core box token set. You can't use clues or resources, as you probably have them on your investigator card already, and there aren't enough chaos tokens with matching faces to cope with a 4-player game. If only they'd made resource tokens double-sided and had a user's face on the reverse. But why not use some of those snazzy dice you picked up at Arkham Knights, just like you do in Depths of Yoth? Poor component planning aside, Alarm is a cool mechanic with many scenario cards interacting with it. And as it is tracked individually for each investigator, it promotes some excellent group decision making. Each class receives a pair of new cards, and there is another fabulous new neutral, which is great as the neutral cards are definitely in need of some love. One of each pair is experienced and the other is level 0, apart from the rogues, which receive 2 experience cards. And just like the last pack's versatile, here is another 2 XP neutral card. Why don't we give you a slideshow while we tuck into this delicious pierogi? Dzień dobry, Polish viewers! Back so soon? Alright, excuse me. So, did you spot the deliberate mistake? Well, that's right. Here we have a firearm with ammo which it never consumes. This may not sound like such a far-fetched idea in terms of game mechanics, as cards like Warning Shot and Eat Lead are other ways of consuming ammunition. But having checked with the designer, this is indeed a misprint, and it should say action, spend 1 ammo, fight, you get +2 combat for this attack, and so on. This will be corrected in the impending FAQ release. Possibly a card to play on easy difficulty, or if you have a way of manipulating your chaos tokens. And don't forget that Jim Culver's ability only treats the modifier on skull tokens as 0, it doesn't change the token itself to a 0 token, so it won't work with the Winchester. Here we have some Guardian themed free movement, which is very welcome. If you are pairing up with someone like Rita Skeeter, then you'll be all over the shop. Maybe handy for a certain train-based scenario. Know what I'm saying? This pack, like so many before it, contains a number of firsts. Welcome to this game's new most expensive card. Well, one which isn't a signature card, so is available to more than one investigator. The old Discover 2 clues at your location type cards have been around since the beginning. Heck, Seekers even got one with Connect the Dots in the Circle Undone. Don't be intimidated by the apparent 10 cost, as this is reduced by the number of cards in your hand, which for Seekers should be many. What a great excuse to invite the lovely Delphinia into your deck. Think of extensive research as a placeholder till an experienced working a hunch finally arrives. And if you have a full 8 cards in your hand, the cost is the same. Have you been wondering why all these traits have been appearing on player cards over the years? Not all of them match out with investigator deck building opportunities after all. Well, here we have a card that references a trait, and just like Eidetic Memory, it is a Seeker card. Do note how it only retrieves skill cards with the practice trait, not any card with the practice trait. Thus cutting it from 18 potential cards to, 18 potential cards. It turns out practiced only appears on skill cards, which thematically makes a lot of sense. Every class does very well out of this, getting at least 3 cards except for the survivors, who currently have only 1, and that is Stunning Blow. Even today's Sharp Vision is innate, which makes a good case for a version of this card for innate skills. Luckily, the 2 neutral skills, Overpower and Perception, are both practice traded, which is great, as fighting and clue gathering are the core of this game. The only other neutral practice skill is the Homefront, Mark Harrigan's signature card, or the 4-fisted death punch as we call it round here. And what's this? Practice makes perfect is tactic traded, allowing Mark Harrigan to include it and fish out those lovely viscous blows. Furthermore, it says, play during a skill test at your location. It doesn't have to be one of your skill tests, so cards like Leadership function perfectly. But these practice cards have to come from your deck, not any out-of-play bonded card areas. What a great card, eh? You know who would make it better? Mandy Thompson, who is getting some incredible cards this cycle. She can search the top 9 cards of her deck for 2 practice-traded cards and commit both of them, and if successful, put both into her hand. And the cards don't need to be the same either. Plus, the cards you search for do not need to have icons that match the test you are currently performing. So this is a great way of getting something into your hand for the next test. But if you are able to commit it you must. On to the rogues, we have an upgraded burglary, which, as well as putting it out of reach of the Dunwich investigators, appears to make it worse, granting only 2 resources on a success, but with additional resources depending on how much you succeed by, up to 5 in total. Whilst rogues love to succeed by more than the bare minimum, straight investigate tests aren't really their strong suit. Apart from maybe Finn. Here we have another Myriad card, and the only one in this pack. This is a card with a huge payoff. An automatic success, draw 3 cards and gain 3 resources, providing you can get all 3 cards committed to the same test, which is no mean feat in a 30+ card deck, if only there was a way to help you. Hey, that looks familiar, and of course Mandy has access to rogue skill cards if she chooses. Maybe chuck in a copy of Momentum for maximum benefit on the next skill test. Let's see what's up with the Mystics. Completing the Triumvirate with Read the Signs and Ethereal Form, here is a card that lets you add, not substitute, but add your willpower to your combat skill value during a fight test, as well as an optional Taunt and Viscous Blow built in, all for a measly 2 resources. Consider this for someone like Zoe, who has 4 willpower, granting up to 3 damage without using a hand slot. And that is before committing the Viscous Blow, which he could pull out with you-know-what. Spells are what makes the Mystic class so versatile, but they literally live and die by having the right one in their hand at the right time. With deck sizes growing, it can get harder to make sure you have what you need at your fingertips. Well, provided you can get Word of Command into your hand, you can find any spell in your deck. Who would have thought the most powerful search card would not belong to the Seekers? Although Daisy can take it. Just saying. This would be great for exceptional spells, but at this moment there aren't any. There is only one myriad spell. An open gate would be a great candidate if you have one gate in play and need an emergency exit. It only allows you to search your deck, not your out-of-play bonded card areas, so you can't grab a Soothing Melody or Blood Right until the host card brings them into your deck. And don't forget, the Painted World is a spell, so maybe Safina could use a couple of these. Obviously, check your discard pile before naming that spell, just in case your memory is as bad as ours. Who doesn't love a static bonus? And as survivors need all the help they can get, an increase in both will and agility is very welcome, particularly for only 3 resources. And as it is level 0, plenty of investigators have access to this card. In fact, with Versatile from the last pack, technically everyone does. Maybe consider it for Agnes, or even Preston. But what's this about not being able to play the card? That's right, you can't use the regular play action or commit it to a skill test, especially as it has no icons. You can only bring it into play by first discarding it from your hand, then triggering the reaction and paying the 3 resources. You are still playing the card and not directly putting it into play, but it doesn't require you to spend one of your actions. This is intelligent game design, as they aren't increasing the resource cost or experience level to offset the powerful bonuses, just making it trickier to get to the table. So how do you discard it? Well, this game doesn't have voluntary discards. At the end of the round in the upkeep phase, you can only discard cards from your hand if you have more than your hand limit, which starts at 8 cards. Seekers, who have many ways to draw cards, are the most likely to operate at maximum hand size, or occasionally Mystics or Guardians that have expensive assets that are slow to play. Luckily, there are a couple of simple survivor tricks. Starting off with the original and best survivor, Wendy Adams, her investigator ability allows her to discard a card from her hand to redraw a chaos token. And this can be done at any time a test is taking place. In the investigator phase, the mythos phase, the enemy phase, whenever she is making a test. Ashcan Pete is definitely the easiest, as he can discard a card during any player window, including the upkeep phase, to ready an asset he controls. And handily he starts with an asset in play that loves to exhaust. Patrice is obviously an ideal candidate, as she discards all her cards at the end of the round anyway, and Patrice's Violin is another free trigger action discard. Perfect! William Yorick doesn't discard cards, but he can play them from his discard pile if it somehow ends up there, maybe by being discarded from play. But you can only trigger Moonstone's reaction when it is discarded from your hand, not anywhere else. So no Yottle. Maybe consider including Cornered if you're a survivor. Moonstone can also be the silver lining with anyone with the amnesia weakness, or remove the downside to Scroll of Prophecies. So why didn't they just give it the fast keyword? Don't forget that fast assets may only be played by an investigator during a player window on his or her turn, so you would miss out on all the opportunities outside your turn to discard cards. Notably from troublesome encounter cards, which make you discard from your hand. Something a little simpler is Sharp Vision. Who can't appreciate help with investigating and bonus clues? And don't forget about Look What I Found, when this isn't quite enough. Lucid Dreaming gives us our first ever neutral spell. Well, one which wasn't a signature card, so is available to everyone. This allows you to search for another copy of one of your cards in play, or in your hand. Great for assembling myriad cards like the 3 aces from this pack, or grabbing another asset that has run out of charges or is filling up with damage or horror. Also great for Tony and his 3/8 long Colt. It does specify play area, so if you had multiple copies of a weakness that went into your threat area, you couldn't use this to extract the ones remaining in your deck. And of course, you can't retrieve any bonded cards that have gone back into your out-of-play bonded cards area. That's it for the player cards, but there is a new weakness, so let's take a quick look at that before we go. This basically reduces the number of turns you have in the first act of each game by making you start with 1 Doom already in play, which, depending on your scenario, may be different degrees of terrible. When the agenda advances, the Doom on this card is cleared along with all Doom everywhere, so it shouldn't trouble you again. Or you could get rid of it early by having someone use the Activate ability and performing a test. The difficulty is 2 + 1 per investigator, so if you're playing true solo it is 3, dual-handed it is 4, and so on. Down with those 4-player games, eh? But wait, Doom is manageable with Moonlight Ritual, and some people even like Doom, such as Marie Lambeau.
Nope.
Well, sadly not, as the ownership and control rules strike again. You may own this card, but even though False Awakening has a player back and lives in your deck, it is not counted as a card you control once revealed. This is because it is a treachery card, and weaknesses with the treachery card type are not controlled by any player. So no one can play Moonlight Ritual on it, and it won't grant Marie a bonus action even if it came from her deck. Plus, it can't be the target for her Elder Sign ability. This thing is rough. Well, that's your lot. Farewell to viewers in Poland and the rest of the world.